Hey guys, welcome to this tutorial on Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, the upward facing dog pose. Today we're going to be looking at the correct body position, finding out what we should be doing with the neck, how to extend the thoracic spine, what to do with the arms, with the shoulders, also to squeeze or not to squeeze, what to do with the legs. We'll also be looking at different transitions in and out of the pose, and what to do if you're experiencing back pain, and how to make your up dog more active. Let's go. Let's start in a kneeling position, sitting down on your heels. And I want you to think about moving your pelvis into anterior pelvic tilt. Notice how this extends your spine, and then moving the pelvis to neutral and then into posterior pelvic tilt. Notice how this flexes the spine. Okay, and then I want you to bring your pelvis to neutral. Now think about extending just the thoracic spine, so lifting the chest forward and up. And now move the thoracic spine back and down into flexion. So moving the thoracic spine forward and up, and then back and down into flexion. And now we can add in the arms. Okay, so you're going to extend the thoracic spine, and now I want you to think about your arms and your shoulders. So shoulders are pulling down into depression as you lift the chest, and then you're going to externally rotate the arms. And then you can also internally rotate the arms, okay? While keeping that extension. External rotation and internal rotation. The main point is we want to try to keep the thoracic extension the whole time. Let's also look at the neck and how that plays a part. Okay, so for a moment, put your head forward like this and notice how generally that causes your spine to go into flexion. The rest of the spine. Now think about pulling your neck back as if you're making a double chin, and notice how that tends to bring the chest up, brings the sternum up. So I want you to go forward and then slide back and really overemphasize that connection between the chin and the sternum, so you go into full extension. Okay, so shoulders are down, you can add in a little external rotation, shoulders down. And then what's the neck going to do? So we don't want to collapse the back of the neck when we go into upward dog, okay, especially if you've got neck pain. So we want to think about stretching the throat rather than collapsing at the back. So how do we do that? Once we've got a good lift through the sternum, I want you to think about throat going forward, chin going up. You could also stay in neutral in upward dog like this. But if you want to get that full stretch through the front line of the body, then we stretch the throat. And if you're having pain in the neck, don't let your ears go past your shoulders like this. Okay, so stretching the front, keeping the ears more or less above the shoulders. Okay, so that's more or less the position that we're going to be coming into in the upward facing dog. So let's try it lying down. And we'll just progress it again, nice and easy, starting with a Sphinx pose. So bring your elbows under your shoulders, hands to the floor, and I want you to think about pulling down and back with your elbows, and that engages your lats, okay? It pulls your shoulders down. And from here, we're going to do a few cat-cows. So you're going to flex the spine, rounding the back, and then you're going to extend the spine. So as you extend, you're going to pull with the arms, and as you flex, you're going to push with the arms. So extension and flexion. And then I want you to bring your hands a little in closer and straighten your elbows a little bit. If it's too much for the lower back, you can go back onto the elbows. We're going to be in this kind of cobra position, and I want you to think about your shoulder blades here. So shoulders up to the ears and create a nice circle, pull the shoulder blades together and down towards the back. So you really engage the lats. So up, back, and down. And we can do a few cat-cows here. So flexing the spine, extending the spine. As you extend, pull the hands down and back. Flex, and then extend. Pull down and back. Now I want you to slowly lower down one vertebrae at a time here. So touching the belly and the ribs, and then try to keep your chest off the floor. Lift your hands off the floor. And then touch all the way down. Then once more. Peel off, lifting up, pull the shoulders down, extend the spine, and then start to lower down. As you lower down one vertebrae at a time, try to find that point where you can hold without the hands. Okay. And this can be a great technique if you're ever experiencing back pain going into your upward dog. Instead of doing the full upward dog, you could simply do this. Lift the chest, lift the hands off the floor. If that feels good, then bring your hands next to your lower ribs and keep that same feeling as you lift up into your upward dog. So you're pulling the shoulders down and lifting the chest. From your Sphinx pose, let's lift up the elbows. If there's too much on your lower back, you could always come back down onto the elbows. We're going to go through those cat-cows again. So rounding the back, flexing the spine, pull the shoulders toward the hips, pull down and back with the hands as you extend the back. Flex, pushing into the floor, and then pull with the hands and extend the spine. So engaging the lats as you pull the shoulders down and lift the chest. And then I want you to slowly lower down, slowly touching the belly, finding that point where you can lift the hands off the floor, but keep the chest lifted. And then touch the chest, and then again use the hands, lift up, pull the shoulders towards the hips, and then extend and slowly lower down. So touching the belly, try to keep the chest off the floor now as you lift the hands. And then touch the chest down. Before we go any further, let's have a look at the legs. So you're going to have to look over your shoulder to your feet. Okay, so upward dog can be done with the feet in dorsiflexion like this, but generally it's done with the feet pointed. If you bring your heels toward each other, this is external rotation. You might even feel your glutes engage. If you bring your feet apart, heels apart, this is internal rotation, and you might feel the glutes relax. And then in between those is neutral position, okay, where you're lining the heel, the knee, and the hip in one straight line. To squeeze or not to squeeze, that is still the question, and it really depends, okay? So the glutes are the main hip extensor of the body. We can also use the hamstrings to bring the hips into extension. But when we're standing, for example, I can extend my hip by just pushing my hips forward. The glutes are relaxed. But if I take my leg back like this, then this is going to be primarily the glutes extending the hip. If I roll the leg into internal rotation, the glute will relax. If I roll the leg into external rotation, the glute will contract. Okay, so the advantage of engaging the glute is that it can help to release the psoas and the hip flexors. But the disadvantage is that for some people they may feel pain in the lower back when they engage the glutes. So you have to find what works for you. Okay, so if we come back to the floor, in general, I would recommend keeping the feet in neutral and then either engage the glutes or not, depending on how you feel. The main thing is to really activate the back muscles and use your upper back, try to open through the thoracic spine. Okay, so let's again try first lifting the chest off the floor. You're going to lift your knees off the floor. If you want to, you could think about squeezing the legs toward each other a little to activate the adductors, and then bring your hands next to your lower ribs. Keep that shape, keep that feeling. You're going to lift into your upward dog, pulling the shoulders down and lifting the chest. Think about your neck slide, so bring the chin back, lift the sternum, and then either stay in neutral with the neck or stretch the throat up without letting the head collapse. So now we're going to look at transitions. Okay, so going in and out of upward dog, we have a few options. One is to lead from the head, or the other would be to lead from the hips, or we could have a combination of both. I'll show you what I mean with this progression. So start in the kneeling position, sitting on your heels. Hands out in front. You're going to come forward, extend your hips, and then you're going to uncurl the spine from the bottom first. Lower back, mid back, upper back, chest. And then as you go back, you're going to lead with the hips, pulling the hips back. And then you're going to sit down onto your heels. Once more, so curling through the spine like an angry cat into a plank position. Then lowering the hips and uncurling the spine one vertebrae at a time. Lower back, mid back, upper back, chest. And then the hips pull you back. And then you sit back. This time I want you to tuck the toes under. And then again, rounding through the back, coming to a kind of an angry cat, then lower the hips one vertebrae at a time, and lift the chest. And then if you want, you can lift the knees. And this time as you lead back with the hips, keep the knees hovering off the floor, about 2 centimeters the whole way. And then sit back down onto your heels with the knees hovering. And then from there, curling the spine like an angry cat first, and then straightening the knees and uncurl one vertebrae at a time, lifting the chest, and then going back, keeping the knees hovering, leading with the hips. Once more, curling the spine one vertebrae at a time, and then uncurling, lifting up. This time you're going to lift back to a downward facing dog. Stay there for a moment, then come to a high plank, flexing the spine like an angry cat, and then sinking the hips down, going slow and uncurling one vertebrae at a time. Once more, going back with the hips to the downward dog, curling the spine to the high plank, lower the hips, and then uncurl the spine. One vertebrae at a time. Pull it back with the hips. Next variation is leading with the head. Okay, we're going to start again. Sitting back on the feet. This time you're going to actually bend your elbows a little out to the side as you go forward, and think about your nose just hovering off the floor, then the chin hovering, chest hovering, and then the hips lifting into an upward dog, but with the knees on the floor. Then you're going to bring the chin to the chest, round through the upper back, going to this angry cat position, and then sit back down onto the heels. We can do that with the toes tucked under. So we bend the elbows to the side, the nose, chin hovering, the chest hovering. When we get to this point, we start to squeeze the elbows in, bring a little external rotation as you lift the chest, extending the hips, pulling the shoulders down, lift the knees, and then you're going to keep the knees hovering as you go back. Keep the knees hovering if you can, bend the elbows. Now it starts to get much harder, so you're touching the nose and the chin and the chest hovering, extending the hips, pull the shoulders down, lift into your upward dog, and then rounding through the back like an angry cat, go back to the downward dog. Okay, now this next step is much harder. So from the downward dog, you're going to do like a dive bomber push-up. So you bend the elbows, the head goes toward the floor, nose hovers, chin hovers, start squeezing the elbows in, engaging through the lats and the shoulders as you lift into your upward dog. Then reverse it, chin to chest, round through the upper back, mid back, all the way up. One more time, bend the elbows, head, nose, chin, chest, extend, Reverse chin, chest, upper back to the downward dog. Okay, so these are just a few ideas. In your Vinyasa practice or Ashtanga Vinyasa practice, you could think of it like this. So imagining you've jumped back, you roll forward. So here I'm thinking more hips, mid back, upper back, and then the head's the last. And then I can either go back leading with the hips, or I can go back rounding the upper back, mid back, lower back. So release the lower back as I go into downward dog. So it depends, like if I'm doing a back bending focus, I might want to keep that shape as I transition. Or if I'm wanting to release the lower back a little bit from back bends, then I'm going to flex the spine more to release the lower back. I hope you found this tutorial useful. If you liked it, click the subscribe button, share it with your friends, and leave a comment below.